wish you bought Pinocchio when you had the chance? Wouldn't you love to have Lady and the Tramp in your collection? Now they're gone. And time's running out for Cinderella, too. But you still have a chance to own Disney's most celebrated animated masterpiece. It's Bendy. Still available, but for a very limited time.
Martin, you better hurry up.
Don't let Bendy get away.
Hopefully I haven't angered Disney legal with that intro. But then again, who am I kidding? I'm flying well under the radar anyhow. So here we are for round 2, and I'm thrilled to be back. Today's game is Bendy and the Ink Machine, and I bet not many of you saw this coming. Okay, none of you did. This is a game that I've been intrigued about for a long time, and I'm happy to report I can scratch this one off the list. But before we get hasty and tally this one off, we've got to review it. However, in all my videos, and by all I mean one, I like to do a little tangent in the intro. Story time, if you will. There is another thing about this game that appealed to me. No, it's not the intriguing old-timey cartoon style, or the sometimes tense atmospheric gameplay, but Bendy's length, which also helped push its way to the top of my next game completion list. You see, long gone are my days of being able to sink 40, 60, or even 80 hours into a game. That dreaded adult responsibility of a full-time job, and only being able to sneak in 2 hours before my girlfriend gets home,
I must have him notice me,
really hampers gaming time. Note that these aren't really complaints. I'm thankful to have a job that pays the bills, and, babe, I do love you. It's just to say that my areas of focus and commitment have changed.
The time of sacrifice is at hand.
So, when you have a game that can promise a fun 5 to 6 hour jaunt, those of us strapped for time will definitely take advantage of it. Especially me. That is, until one of these pop up, then all hope is gone. Anyway, tangent time is over, and let's start the review. Bendy and the Ink Machine begins with protagonist Henry receiving a letter from his old boss to visit his former workplace.
All right, Joey. I'm here. Let's see if we can find what you wanted me to see.
The game thrusts you in as soon as you enter the old animation studio, where within the first few steps, it's apparent that the place has seen better days. And better days is definitely an understatement. Ominous ink spews and pools throughout the studio, along with creepy ink scratchings, and phrases abound. I won't go too much into the story to avoid spoilers, but I will say that shit goes awry once the ink machine is started at your old boss's request. Once that happens, Henry is left to battle, puzzle solve, and sneak his way to survival and avoid an inky grave. Along the way, Henry will hear from former colleagues through voice recordings, as well as meet up with some in person. The story is intriguing and pulls players through a series of twists and turns as you unravel the mystery on what occurred. There is definitely a deeper story than what is apparent, but I'll let you experience it for yourself, or YouTube it later.
There we go now, nice and tight. We wouldn't want our sheep roaming away now, would we?
The cast of characters in the story are comprised of your former colleagues. Each character's tale is interesting, and all are well voice acted. You will learn how their lives are shaped following the events of the Ink Machine's arrival. My only complaint with the characters is our protagonist, Henry. His personality is flat, and there are little reactions to all the insane things that are going on around him. Henry isn't a silent protagonist, and his reaction to many of the mind-bending events are either stale or non-existent.
This will definitely come in handy.
A lot of the story and backstory is delivered to you via Bioshock-esque voice recorders, as well as hidden in posted letters and clippings. And side note, this won't be the only Bioshock allusion mentioned while talking about this game, but more on that later. Next, we must talk about the game's graphics, and the 1940s cartoon style is gorgeous and spectacularly done. You think that dull browns and golden lighting would be a detriment, but it perfectly recreates the old-school animation aesthetic. However, the perfection does come with a minor cost, and I do mean minor. The game throws a few hunt and fetch quests, and sometimes smaller, more mundane objects of interest blend into the background. Also, with no clear color distinction, and hallways looking a bit samey, navigating in the game can be a bit bothersome, especially without a map. There were several times I would get lost trying to find my way back or around a level. Some lighting cues and landmarks help, but when there's the same cardboard cutout of Bendy copy and pasted at every corner, it doesn't help. I want to circle back to the comparison between Bendy and Bioshock. Other than starting with the same character and the voice recorders, the look and feel of the world in each game is strikingly similar. Both places exude a once former utopia that is now crippled and haunted by its inhabitants. Rapture is this glorious city and once a magnet for artistry and free thinkers seeking to escape government oppression. Joey Drew Studios, okay that doesn't sound as cool as Rapture, is the once booming cartoon studio now relic, dwarfed by modern animation and a new generational taste. The creators Andrew Ryan and Joey Drew also draw similar parallels of men unwilling to compromise their ideals and going to questionable lengths to protect them. I would classify Bendy as a first-person action horror rather than survival horror. There's no inventory to manage or scarcity of resources. The game is broken up into small, bite-sized and tantalizing episodes. The combat is serviceable, but unremarkable. I mean, Henry is no axe-wielding maniac, he's a cartoonist, and I can excuse these shortcomings. However, I get the sense this isn't done on purpose. The combat feels added at the last minute so that the game isn't a pure puzzle/walking simulator. That's not to say it detracts from the game, and I'd rather it be in there than not. The puzzles do well to provoke some thought, but they aren't overly head-scratching nor on Silent Hill levels of, fuck this, give me a walkthrough. The aforementioned voice recorders aren't just for entertainment or story delivery, but can also offer clever hints on how to solve a particular puzzle. However, they are sometimes marred by the in-your-face tips displayed on the pause screen. The puzzles and item locations also differ between game replays, and also in between reloads. There was one point where I saved the game mid-puzzle and reloaded much later, only to find that the items I needed to interact with had changed. This definitely adds to replayability, though I imagine one go-around is what most players will settle for. To the creepy groans of enemies, machines hammering in the background, old-timey jazz and great escape sequences, this game has atmosphere. This is the reason to play Bendy. It's not the gameplay or puzzles, but the careful look and feel this game uses to lure you in. It does everything it can to unnerve you within its rated T for teen grasp.
Did you hear that?
Bendy himself is an ominous presence that looms over this world. One section in particular literally has him wandering the level where he slowly hunts you down the longer you roam out in the open. Critics will say that the game is too short, but for an indie title, I won't hold it against it. Also, not to divert back to my original tangent, but its short length is appreciated. It doesn't overstay its welcome and provides quick, intense episodic content. Each episode ends with just enough of a taste to leave you wanting into the next. It's not quite on the tantalizing level of early Telltale Walking Dead games, but it does well to hook you into carrying on.
Someone there? I know you're in here. Come out and show yourself.
If you're expecting sheer Resident Evil 7 VR shit-your-trousers gameplay, then this isn't it, and you should put your headsets back on. However, if you're looking for a fun game with an interesting and engaging art style filled with spots of tension, this is it. It's a different visual take on the action horror genre, albeit with no major revelations in gameplay or mechanics, but I do recommend it based on the game's distinctive look and feel. Well, with that said, let's scratch this bad boy off the list. I'd like to thank you for watching. Please leave a comment with your thoughts.
I must admit, I am honored you came all the way down here to visit me.